Hi, Karen with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a scrapbook layout for Kitaholic Kits, and I'm using the March 22, both the main kit and the mixed media kit today. And I've done a little bit of work off camera just to get things a little bit started, and I've created some wedge pieces out of some of my leftover papers from pretty much my favourite ones from this month's kit. And I was just lucky enough that I had enough pieces left that I could create some different sizes of these wedge pieces. Now, to create these wedge pieces, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You could draw a circle or hand cut them out yourself. What I did do is I do have some, I guess, insides or negative components of some previous cut to you cut files, and I keep them in my stash all the time to create potentially some templates and things like that. So I did that for these ones, and I just traced around the patterned paper and fussy cut it out. It was nice and simple, and I just did a couple of different sizes so I could get some dimension on the page. So I'm focusing on creating a semicircle here. I do not take all these wedges all the way to make an actual circle, and I'm just having a little bit of a play right now before I start doing the mixed media on where I'm going to situate things. And I have started popping things up on foam as well, so that fawny colour patterned paper with the leaves, those gorgeous little leaves, I've popped that onto the paper. The more lilac paper, I'm sticking that straight down onto my white cardstock, and the gorgeous Maggie Holmes little flowers paper pattern there also has some of my foam as well. So it really gives a really lovely dimension through the whole piece as I pull that back together. So that's my idea that I'm working on. And because the semicircle, I guess I'm going with here, was quite busy when it comes to all that dimension and all that patterned paper, I decided that I'd go really simple with my mixed media for this one. And I'm just literally splattering around the page. So I did put a couple of pencil line marks before I moved my pieces away, just to give myself a little bit of a feel around where they needed to land. Now, I do know that a lot of these are going to be covered up, but I was still at this moment thinking maybe I might leave some space between the patterned paper as well. So that's really why I ended up putting it a little bit more sort of over the page and not just on the outside of the semicircle. So I used that gorgeous purple colour that we got and the corally colour as well. So none of the blue for this one. And it worked beautifully when I toned it down by drying it with my paper towel. So I've wiped that over, and that really gave it that soft look that I was really looking for. So really subtle. And I also did grab out my Kaiser Mist in gold as well, because I always love some gold splatters on the page, and you'll see it a lot better in the close-ups a little bit later. So I'm just gluing my pieces down with some wet glue. That is the Nuvo Drops, the Nuvo glue there. That is fast becoming my favourite glue. I've talked about it a couple of times in some previous videos, and it is definitely probably leaning towards being my favourite. And I did use that mainly because I had pre-gessoed that white cardstock, and I wanted to make sure that the papers were really stuck down well. And I always find if I use my tape on my gessoed white cardstock, things don't stick for as long. So you know, you certainly, by the time I decided I was going to use splatters, I really probably didn't need to have a gessoed piece of white cardstock. So yes, you certainly wouldn't need to do that if you were going to give that a bit of a go with just some splatters on the page. To give it a little bit more structure as well, I wanted to put a little bit of that frame onto the page. So to really frame up my photo there, I have backed my photo with just plain white cardstock, which is not something I do very often, but I really wanted to make sure that I could lift that photo just a little bit off that frame. So I think it just helps it just allows it to pop off that page a little bit. And I cut off from that frame the speech bubble. So I needed to also make sure that I was covering that up with some flowers. So that was perfect anyway, around how I was going to put my clusters on the page. So I've really gone for just 2 clusters on my page today, which I often work in 3s, but I really felt having 3 components on this layout would have just been overkill, and I'm really not even sure where I would have put it. So my clusters today are really aimed at just that diagonal around the page, just offset from those gorgeous angles from those wedge pieces of patterned paper. So I have fussy cut out some of the Jan Hadfield stems and the leaves. I wanted to take off the white components of those, and I really love how that sort of sits up off the page as well. I did curl up the flowers, the petals, as much as I could as well, and I have popped a few of them up on some foam, particularly that purple one on the bottom there is on some foam, and underneath that one is also, the yellow one is also up on foam, because by the time I put all that dimension on the page, they needed to be able to sit up so they could meet and sort of touch each other. I should mention as well, I did pop up the photo onto some foam as well, because that frame was sitting quite high and it was also sitting on top of some of the dimensional pattern paper. It was sort of, if I'd sat it there, it wouldn't have had anything to sit on. So that was how I was able to pull that one together. And that is pretty much it for my layout today. It actually didn't take too long once I pulled that together. Oh, I did forget, you probably would have seen me at the start there. I did also distress the edges of the paper wedges. I didn't do very heavy distressing though. It was very light touch around that distressing tool because I didn't want it to really be too messy. So to finish off, I just added some more splatters, and I do coat those up, pick those up a little bit with my paper towel there, just so they're more subtle, not the really dark tones of that. And I go back over with some more gold splatters as well. So both the purple, the coral, and the gold for that one, just to finish it off. And I do put some of the gold splatters onto some of the ephemera pieces as well, just for a little bit of added shine and connectivity between the actual white background and the ephemera. Hopefully that makes sense. And you will now see coming up momentarily the final layout, and I've got some close-ups for you today. I want to thank you as always. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope I've given you some sort of inspiration, and please make sure you check out the link below. I'll have all the links around where you can get the kits and the links to the Facebook groups as well. We love it when you come and share what you're up to. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.